it is time to rank our elite quarterbacks for the 2025 fantasy football season. Now, before we get into the rankings, remember these are tier lists, which means anyone in each tier can be swapped with anyone else in that tier. So don't get mad if I put someone lower in a tier where you think they should be going. The only thing you can get mad at me for would be putting someone in the wrong tier if you think they should be going higher or lower. But before we hop into our S tier, there are 12 teams in every Underdog Fantasy Football draft, which means just by pure chance, you would have about a 16% chance of your team advancing to the next round. But just this last year, my teams advanced 26.9% of the time, meaning that using my strategies, I was able to make my teams 1.68 times more successful than average. And if you want to learn about these strategies, please hit that subscribe button. But hopping into starting with our S tier today, you guys all saw it coming, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Starting with Josh Allen, my quarterback one for 2025. Of course, someone who can get it done every single year with very little in terms of supporting cast. Keon Coleman, only 500 yards and change as a rookie. Dalton Kincaid still has not lived up to his billing of a first-round wide receiver, while James Cook did have a pretty good season, but Josh Allen, no matter what his supporting cast is doing, can always get it done. Finished as an elite quarterback last season, despite the guys around him not being very good. But those guys around him, the upside for that is they have a ton of room to actually improve and get better. Imagine Keon Coleman takes a step forwards. Imagine Dalton Kincaid takes a step forwards. There's even more to get out of Josh Allen, even though he's coming off a year with 40-point games and just an absolute league-winning player. Moving on to Lamar Jackson, 2025's quarterback one. Not a whole lot we got to talk about with Lamar Jackson. Another guy with elite rushing upside. The difference between Lamar and Josh Allen, one, Lamar was quarterback one last year, so if you want to go with immediate history, then you would take him. But two, Lamar Jackson has a better supporting cast than Josh Allen. In his offense, Derrick Henry is better than James Cook. Zay Flowers is better than Keon Coleman. Mark Andrews is better than Dalton Kincaid. So Lamar Jackson has a better offense than Josh Allen, which will lead to potentially more points for Lamar Jackson instead. But these two guys, it's up to you with whoever you want to go ahead and draft. So moving into our A tier, we're going to have Jalen Hurts, Jayden Daniels, and Joe Burrow. Now, Jalen Hurts is my first guy. Yes, he did go out at the end of the year with a concussion, but if you take out the game where he put up 5 points with that injury, he put up 22.5 points per game on the season, which was 1 point higher than Jayden Daniels and the exact same as Joe Burrow. Now, if the reason why I do have Jalen Hurts above Joe Burrow along with Jayden Daniels is they have the rushing upside that Burrow doesn't have, so they have a higher floor on a week-to-week basis, which is why I want to go ahead and select them instead. Jalen Hurts, also another quarterback with an elite supporting cast with Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith. Now, the reason why Jalen Hurts is currently my number one drafted quarterback on Underdog Fantasy Football is because historically this guy goes at the end of Underdog drafts. Usually his ADP lines up where you can take him and easily stack him with A.J. Brown. Currently, that's not happening because over the last month, he has been going down in ADP. And if he continues to go down, that will once again be a factor where you are going to be able to take Jalen Hurts at ADP and stack him with A.J. Brown at ADP. That's a strategy I absolutely love putting forwards. Now, moving on to Jayden Daniels. His rookie season blew C.J. Stroud's amazing rookie season completely out of the water. Jayden Daniels, of course, having one of the highest rushing upside potentials of any fantasy football quarterback, and that's why we would absolutely love drafting Jayden Daniels. There's not a whole lot to explain with him. As a rookie, put up 21.5 points per game, which was extremely impressive. One of the highest completion percentages we've ever seen out of a rookie. Extremely impressive out of Jayden Daniels. Moving on to Joe Burrow, like I said before, averaged 22.5 points per game this season. When Joe Burrow plays, he is an elite quarterback every single time. Now, when people think about the top quarterbacks in fantasy football, Joe Burrow is often not a name that's brought up, but if we look at his history, 2024 and 2022 are the last 2 seasons where he played all 17 games, and he finished as quarterback 4 and quarterback 3. So both, we know if he plays a full season, he's going to be an elite quarterback. It's just an issue of staying healthy. And when you're talking about any fantasy football quarterback, it's the same thing. If they get hurt, they're not going to score points. They're not going to be elite. So you are taking a chance on you're taking a chance by drafting anyone. You might as well take the guy who, if he does stay healthy, he's going to have the upside. So now let's move on to our B tier. And the first guy I'm going to have in the B tier is the first surprise of this video. It's going to be Justin Fields, the quarterback of the New York Jets. Justin Fields only started 6 games for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024. And if you take his points per game from only those 6 games, he actually averaged 21 points per game. So that is an elite fantasy scoring out of your quarterback. Now, if we want to compare the situations between the Steelers and the New York Jets, the Steelers have a worse offensive line. They had a worse running back, so he now has a better running back with Breece Hall. He now has a better number 1 wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, and what we think is a better offensive coordinator in Tanner Engstrand from the Detroit Lions, now the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets. We think that is an improvement over the run-heavy system of fantasy football terrorist Arthur Smith. Justin Fields, a player, when he's coming off the board as low as he is, as quarterback 11 on Underdog Fantasy Football, this is one of my favorite values in all of fantasy football. Now, moving on to the second guy I have here, our 7th overall quarterback, it's going to be Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield going off the board a little bit higher than Justin Fields, but still at a value at quarterback 7 on Underdog. Baker Mayfield put up 22.5 points per game in 2024, just like Joe Burrow, just like Jalen Hurts. The difference with Baker Mayfield is, like Joe Burrow, he also doesn't have the rushing upside, so the floor is lower. And he lost his offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, who is now the head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars, which slightly hurts his fantasy output projection for this season, but not by a ton. Still an elite quarterback in terms of fantasy football scoring, and someone I expect to be able to put up a lot of points for your teams should you be going ahead and drafting Baker Mayfield this season. Now, our next tier, our C tier here, we are going to go ahead and put out Dak Prescott actually as the first guy. And I know a lot of people don't enjoy drafting Dak Prescott, but the case for Prescott is very similar to the case for Joe Burrow. And that's when the guy plays a full season, he is an extremely high scoring fantasy football asset. We look at the last 2 seasons where he played every single game. 2021, quarterback 8. 2023, quarterback 3. In 2023, Dak Prescott had the exact same situation. It was coming off an injury, and people were sleeping on him, and he came out and absolutely performed. And his wide receiver 1 was also CeeDee Lamb. Didn't have a ton of guys to throw to on offense. Now he gets George Pickens on top of CeeDee Lamb, and Jake Ferguson has came into his own a little bit more. So he has an even higher ceiling. But one thing to note with that quarterback 3 season with Dak Prescott is the fact that it was a lower scoring fantasy football season for quarterbacks. Dak Prescott only put up 20.7 points per game that season, which in 2023 was good enough for quarterback 3. In a normal year, that would not be good enough for a finish that high. So just keep that in mind when drafting Dak Prescott. But at an ADP of 15 on Underdog, I absolutely love drafting Dak Prescott. If we can find my graphic here, there it is. Quarterback 15 on Underdog. Absolutely love taking Dak Prescott. And he's got rushing upside. He may be 31 years old, but he still has rushing upside. Now, on to our next quarterback in this tier with Mr. Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray coming into the season, only coming off of a quarterback 10 finish where he only put up 18.1 points per game, but he did come out this offseason and say that he was going to be running the football more. He said, I don't want to get too scheme-based, but I do have to run more next year. I'm open to running more because it's such a weapon, you know. So he is going to be running more, which means his season this year will look closer to the Kyler Murray seasons pre-torn ACL. And if we pull up those seasons, he was able to put up a quarterback 6, 3, and 10 finish. Highly impressive finishes for a quarterback. We love to see the rushing upside, which we know Kyler Murray brings to the table. That was the 2022 19 quarterback finish and 26 quarterback finish were both seasons hurt by that ACL injury, so you can't read too much into those. The next quarterback here we got at quarterback 10 is going to be the great and powerful Patrick Mahomes. Now, I understand he is going off the board on Underdog much higher than this. He's going off the board at quarterback 6, but this is absolutely way too high to be taking Patrick Mahomes. Last season, he put up 18.4 points, and over the last 3 years, he has scored less points each and every year. This is because the Chiefs' offensive strategy is properly adjusting to the way defenses have started to play Patrick Mahomes and just defense in general in the NFL. They are moving to too high safety looks, which means they're taking away the deep pass, which is what Patrick Mahomes absolutely thrived on. Yes, he's great at doing everything there is to do for a quarterback to do, but his number one thing where he scored a ton of points when Tyreek Hill was in his offense was throwing the ball really deep, using his elite arm strength. Now, teams are taking that away. They're forcing him to check it down, and the Chiefs are adjusting by having Patrick Mahomes throw the ball less, throw the ball deep less, and it's hurting Patrick Mahomes' points in fantasy. Only 18.4 points this previous season. I cannot justify taking him at quarterback 6 when there is Baker Mayfield, who put up a 22.5 right under him, and Bo Nix, who we're actually going to head into right now, going after him as well. So not a fan of Patrick Mahomes at ADP, but he's still Patrick Mahomes. He can always bounce back. Now, Bo Nix had an extremely productive rookie season. People love talking about that CJ Stroud rookie season, and CJ Stroud's rookie season led him to be taken as quarterback 6 off the board in 2024 fantasy football drafts. But if we take a quick look at Bo Nix's rookie stats versus CJ Stroud stats, we notice some interesting things. CJ Stroud put up more passing yards per game. Oh, by the way, all this on a per game basis because CJ Stroud got injured as a rookie, only played in, I think it was 15 games instead of the 17 that Bo Nix played in. So CJ Stroud, more passing yards per game, but less passing touchdowns per game. Bo Nix threw less interceptions per game. Importantly, ran the ball more and for more touchdowns per game. And most importantly, more fantasy points per game. So if Bo Nix had a better fantasy football season as a rookie than CJ Stroud did, he must be going higher than CJ Stroud was as a second year. Nope. Bo Nix going off the board at quarterback 10, CJ Stroud going off the board at quarterback 7, almost a 30 ADP differential between the two quarterbacks. Bo Nix, very good second year quarterback with rushing upside. We can feel very confident selecting him as our quarterback 11 or even higher. He is going higher than that on Underdog Fantasy Football. He's currently going off the board at quarterback 10. So I have him one spot lower, but this whole C tier really is just a jumble of guys, and that is properly reflected by Underdog's ADP, where all these guys are separated by about 10 spots of ADP, except for Patrick Mahomes, but you really should not be taking Patrick Mahomes on Underdog or in your casual ESPN leagues. People are going to be reaching on him. Don't be one of those people, please. Now, our final quarterback here is going to be Caleb Williams. Second year, first overall pick. Last season as a rookie, Caleb Williams put up 16.25 fantasy football points per game. A little bit disappointing, which, given the expectations that we had for this player, but he has gotten an even better situation. After a year where we said this is the best situation that a rookie quarterback has ever had, we saw the situation get even better. A first-round pick spent on Michigan's tight end Colston Loveland, and then a second-round pick spent on Missouri's Luther Burden at wide receiver. Now, I understand they didn't get that rookie running back that people were hoping for, but they got more pass catchers for Caleb Williams. He now has an embarrassment of riches at his disposal to have a crazy sophomore breakout at the quarterback position. He's currently my quarterback 12. I think he has a lot of room to go up, but the players that I have ranked above him on this tier list all have better claims to being a higher quarterback. Caleb Williams, his finish as a quarterback 1 is a projection at this moment, where with Kyler Murray, with Dak Prescott, with Bo Nix, with Baker Mayfield, we've seen them be quarterback 1s before, at least on a points per game basis. So I would feel more comfortable going ahead with those guys. But if you want to go ahead and take a big swing on Caleb Williams and, value him higher than quarterback 12, I can absolutely understand why you would. But at this moment in time, there is no guarantee that he is going to have a much better season than he did last year, even with these improved weapons. But that's what I got for the video today. So if you enjoyed, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and have a great day.